shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts beating as one. Light upon light upon light, all disappear into one. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts beating as one. Light upon light upon light, all disappear into one. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Love upon love upon love, all hearts beating as one. Light upon light upon light, all disappear into one. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through. Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, here on this fine, warm, and a bit smoky third Sunday in July. Hello, my name's Fred Cole, and I will be the worship leader for this morning's service. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. If you are a new visitor, please email our office manager, Amy Zen, and let us know how you found us. You'll find her email in the chat box. Our church website also has a great deal of information about the church, its programs, and its activities. I've learned that sometimes you come across a small nugget of truth or inspiration in an odd place. And this happened to me this week reading the comic strip Pickles. The grown daughter is apologizing to her mother following a misunderstanding between them. The family matriarch says, "Well, let's just forget about it. Life is too short for nursing grudges." And in the next panel, she adds, "Besides, no matter how much you nurse a grudge, it never gets better." Isn't that the truth? This morning's speaker is coming to us from her new apartment in Eugene, Oregon. A graduate of the Star King School for Ministry, the Reverend Youngsun Ryu has served congregations in Napa, California, and Williamsburg, Virginia. Most recently, she's been the affiliated community minister with the Unitarian Church of Charleston, South Carolina, serving as an oncological chaplain in various southeastern healthcare facilities. And then this summer, she drove that long diagonal across the U.S. from South Carolina to Oregon, where she's taking up her duties as the newly called minister at the UU Church in Eugene, Oregon. It is truly my pleasure to welcome Reverend Jennifer Youngsun Ryu to our pulpit this morning. Welcome. Now please ensure that your microphones remain muted as Reverend Ryu calls upon us to join together in this time of worship.
Thank you so much, Fred. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you. So I want to call us to worship this fine Sunday morning with words written by the Reverend Robert French Levins. Holy and beautiful are the customs which bring us together in the presence of the Most High, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of the ages, the cathedral music of history. 3 unseen guests attend: faith, hope, and love. Let our hearts prepare them place.
Though I may speak
If you have a personal chalice or candle near your computer, please get ready to light it now. We invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is being lit, the street or neighborhood, or from what city if you're joining us from outside Boulder County. Susan Bailey will light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Susan Bailey. My husband and I joined UUCB in 2013. My journey to Unitarian Universalism is similar to many you've heard before. The questioning and rejection of earlier religious beliefs, mine being Methodist, the disengagement from all organized religions, although I did try a silent Quaker meeting, but could only concentrate on the mismatched socks on the gentleman sitting beside me. Then I filled out the Belief-O-Matic questionnaire and was directed to humanism, and finally, the longing for renewed connection and community. The seeds that grew into membership at this specific UU church were planted at a warm water class at East Boulder Rec Center and on a bench overlooking Thunderbird Lake in Fraser Meadows. While exercising in warm water, I met Henry and Jeannie Krull, who spoke often of their beloved church community and activities. A few years later, yes, the seeds were slow in growing, I met Trish Judd, who joined me on a bench in Burke Park. She was considering a move to Fraser Meadows and told me stories of her life as a UU and her role in Roe versus Wade. Tim and I eventually took the bold step and entered UUCB in February 2013. I remember seeing the colorful banners with different religious symbols hanging in the sanctuary, and I thought, yes, this is it. I expected to have a preacher sitting on my doorstep Monday morning, but to my surprise, no one pressured us to join. We were just warmly welcomed by Reverend Lind each Sunday and by many friendly people. We joined with 12 others in April. Since then, I have been nurtured in small groups and Sunday services and learned the value of daily spiritual practice. I have been inspired by our spirited, beautiful music and embraced by preschoolers while teaching RE. I have come to love Ingrid and her children through sanctuary service. I have made many good friends and enjoyed lively social gatherings. I am grateful for all of these experiences and opportunities. I light this chalice today in gratitude for this community and in anticipation for our continued journey with Reverend David.
Our chalices are lit. We now invite all of those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we say aloud our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. In this deep connection with all of life, let us tune now into our own joys and concerns. What is it on your mind and in your heart today? In the quiet of our own thoughts, lift up all that weighs on you: grief, worry, pain, joy, celebration. Whatever it is, let us hold this and each other in silence. Now let us turn our minds and hearts to those we love, holding them with love, while acknowledging the painful challenges that they may be experiencing. I invite you to share your concerns in the chat box. I'll share a few of them with you. Into this container of love and care, we invite David and Joko, who are here in Boulder for a couple of months before returning to Honolulu. Susan's grandson Benjamin is returning from Sweden today. Martha, it's a heavy week. Her father has a mini stroke and her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. It's hard being away from family right now. Continued concern for those that are undergoing hospitalizations. We send our love and our caring to all of those who are suffering. And I invite you now to bring to mind and your heart the things for which you are grateful. The voices, the people, the places, or actions which bring to you immediate joy. Continue typing in the chat box if you wish. Henry Kroll is pleased to be hosting two dearest friends from San Francisco. Rebecca and Kathy were able to celebrate in person with Catherine's father, with their father on his 97th birthday. Heidi Todd is always feeling deep gratitude for the conversations she has with her friends at UU. Nina Peterson has the joy of meeting her grandson and having his son and family from Sweden here for a month. Seems to be a lot of folks coming from Sweden, but they had to return yesterday. Makes her a little sad. What's for all these blessings and concerns, as well as those that remain silently in or on our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. May we always continue to bless and be a blessing to each other. Amen. Jennifer? Have we lost Jennifer?
She's there. She's just muted. Looks like she's there, but still looks like she's muted.
Okay, I'm back.
There we go.
Yeah, I lost my internet connection this morning, just as I had feared.
That's a brand new one, but you're back now. Good morning.
Did I miss the whole service?
No, but we would like to have you lead us a meditation.
Okay, let me set down my phone here. Okay. So I wanted to lead you all in a Buddhist practice called Metta Bhavana, and it's one that maybe a lot of you already know. It's the meditation of loving kindness. And so I just invite you to find a comfortable place to relax. And the first thing to bring to mind is yourself. Consider the love that you have for yourself and the regard that you have for yourself. And say to yourself silently, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be happy, and may I live with ease. And now bring your mind to someone that you care about, someone that you feel a deep connection with, a friend. And say to them, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be happy, and may you live with ease. And now bring to mind a neutral person, someone you don't know very well, someone you see occasionally, and say to them, may you be happy, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. And now bring to mind someone that you don't care for, someone that maybe rubs you the wrong way and that you've never really felt a connection with. And say to them, may you be peaceful, may you be free of suffering, may you be happy. And then turn your attention to the whole universe. Expand your circle of concern to everyone and everything in our cosmos. And say to them, may all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. May it be so.
Our reading this morning is from Seeds by Thomas Merton. We are at liberty to be real or to be unreal. We may be true or false. The truth is ours. We may wear now one mask and now another, and never, if we so desire, appear with our own true face. But we cannot make these choices with impunity. Causes have effects, and if we lie to ourselves and to others, then we cannot expect to find truth and reality whenever we happen to want them. If we have chosen the way of falsity, we must not be surprised that truth eludes us when we come to need it. Thomas Merton.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Holy and beautiful, the custom which brings us together. These opening words call us back to the reason we gather in worship every Sunday. To face our ideals, yes. To be enlightened, definitely. To give thanks, absolutely. To make confession. Well, let's think about that one. Growing up, my best friend and next door neighbor was Roman Catholic. I watched her go through First Communion and then confirmation. I heard about the confession booth where my friend, being a good girl, struggled to come up with a sin to share with the priest. As a Korean Presbyterian, I had never stepped inside a confession booth until one particularly steaming hot summer in the Netherlands. I was there attending a conference of the International Unitarian Universalists, and we were staying at a conference center that used to be a 12th century monastery. The chapel was the coolest place in the center. So one afternoon, I found myself in one of those confession booths, kneeling there to see what it felt like. Ow, painful on the knees. But after a while, I settled into that discomfort, and I imagined all the people who had brought their sorrow-laden hearts to that very same spot. 1,000 years before that chapel was built, the early Christian church comprised small groups of people who met regularly, often in secret. Their order of worship was, first of all, self-disclosure and confession of sin. This was followed by announcement of penance, pleas for forgiveness, and plans to make restitution. This general formula continued until the Council of Nicaea in the year 325, when Constantine took over the church for all Roman citizens. He replaced the public personal disclosure with a mandatory private confession to a priest at least once a year. Centuries later, Martin Luther tossed out private confession for Protestants, and we, being the radical descendants of those Protestants, now only practice open public confession, if at all. In 1937, the Unitarians and the Universalists, decades before the formal consolidation of those two denominations, compiled a hymnal together, which included a prayer of confession. And our current hymnal also includes a public confession. The Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs wrote Litany of Atonement. That's number 637 if you're following along. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Reverend Eller Isaacs and his co-minister, Reverend Jan Eller Isaacs, were this year's Berry Street lecturers. Berry Street, by the way, is our annual lecture about our faith, and it's been going nonstop for 200 years. He said, "We still believe that vital religious communities grounded in the experience of the holy, sustained by personal practice, and by rituals of confession, lamentation, and covenant, provide a framework for love and justice to take hold in the world." To confess is not to take on guilt and shame. In fact, it's just the opposite. To confess is to be free. It is the exhalation to make room for something new. Some of us may want to confess that our actions don't match our values, and we want to be a person who lives with integrity. We may confess that we are having a hard time finding hope, and we want to live a life of purpose and meaning. We confess that we are in trouble and we are in need, and we want church to be a place where we can say that out loud. A regular practice of confession reminds us that it's not our shortcomings and mistakes that separate us from others, but it's our unwillingness to tell the truth about these very inherent human experiences. And this is how public confession among a community of trust becomes a powerful antidote to the illusion of separateness and the suffering of estrangement. Every religious tradition recognizes the importance of assessing one's life, making mid-course corrections, and seeking and granting forgiveness. Muslims make confession to Allah. The Quakers have clearness committees. I once lived with a community of Buddhist nuns for a month, and every Friday they would gather around the table and talk about whatever was in their minds and hearts that was getting in the way of the wholeness and health of the entire community. And in the Jewish faith, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is both a private and public practice. Following days of personal introspection, on Yom Kippur, they come together to engage in communal confession. Even for the non-religious, the urge to confess keeps expressing itself in new forms outside of traditional religion. Therapeutic communities like AA and other 12-step groups expect that members will make public confession. And there are internet confession booths where you can anonymously unburden yourself. Maybe some of you will remember that in the early 2000s, Frank Warren printed out and handed out 3,000 self-addressed postcards, inviting people to share their secrets with a stranger. Whatever they submitted had to be true and something that no one else knew about. He ended up with tens of thousands of cards, which he then turned into a series of 6 books called Post Secrets. After reading one of those books, a reader noticed that the things that make us feel so abnormal are actually the things that make us all the same. As I mentioned, Unitarian Universalists have never had a practice of private confession to a clergy person, and our practice of public confession has not really been consistent. Some years, a congregation might include the Litany of Atonement during the fall to coincide with Yom Kippur, but then skip it the next year. And then when we write statements or resolutions as a General Assembly, sometimes we do include confession, as we did in crafting the Creating Peace resolution in 2010. We wrote, "We confess that we have not done all we could to prevent the spread of armed conflict throughout the world. At times, we have lacked the courage to speak and act against violence and injustice. But in this year's statement of conscience, undoing systemic white supremacy, there was no such language." If public confession is like exhaling to make room for the new thing is reconciliation, harmony with self, harmony with God, harmony with earth, and harmony with others. Before reconciliation, there must be confession. Before confession, there must be stillness. To show the interplay between stillness, confession, and reconciliation, I have chosen a rather unconventional text. It is the speech given by Bill Clinton in 1998. Handwritten by the president and delivered at the annual White House prayer breakfast. In the audience, there were more than 100 ministers, priests, and other clergy. The first thing to notice is the difference between confession and apology. Author Susan Weisbauer writes that an apology is an expression of regret. I'm sorry that happened. Apology addresses the audience. Confession implies an inner change. On that September morning, President Clinton began his speech with these words: "As you might imagine, I have been on quite a journey these past few weeks to get to the end of this, to the rock bottom truth of where I am." With these words, he tells us that he knows he must make the journey to the rock bottom truth, to this place of stillness. After you slough off self-delusion, after you strip off self-deception, after you leave behind all the excuses, you finally stop running from yourself. And in that stillness is the opportunity to take a fearless moral inventory, and to give voice to whatever hides in the shadow. 1 month before this prayer breakfast confession, President Clinton addressed the public after having spent a day in front of the grand jury. That day, he did admit to having an inappropriate relationship with the now infamous Monica Lewinsky, but that confession felt forced and resentful. He spent most of his time blaming other people. You can tell he was still struggling. He had not yet reached the rock bottom of his truth. The president continues his speech. I agree with those who have said that in my first statement after I testified, I was not contrite enough. I don't think there is a fancy way to say that I have sinned. Now that the president has made his confession, he continues by connecting confession to reconciliation. He says, I believe that to be forgiven, more than sorrow is required, at least 2 more things. First, a genuine repentance, a determination to change and to repair breaches of my own making. And second, what my Bible calls a broken spirit, an understanding that I must have God's help to be the person I want to be, a renunciation of the pride and the anger which cloud judgment, lead people to excuse and compare, to blame and to complain. It took President Clinton a long time to get to this point. Turning does not come easily for us human beings. It takes an act of will. It takes a determination to change. When we as individuals and religious communities commit to a regular practice of confession, we commit to getting to the rock hard bottom of our truth. As I start my ministry serving the UUs in Eugene, I'm thinking a lot about rituals and spiritual practices that will help to heal that community. I believe confession, even if we call it something else, will be a really important part of that healing. I want them and I want you all to remember one very important thing, which is fundamental to our truth, that there is nothing that you have ever done or ever will do that is beyond the possibility of reconciliation. And that is truly good news. As we end our time together, I ask you to join me in a spirit of stillness, confession, and reconciliation as I read the 1937 Unitarian Prayer of Confession. O thou unseen source of peace and holiness, we come into thy secret place to be filled with thy pure and solemn light. As we come to thee, we remember that we have been drawn aside from the straight and narrow way, that we have not walked lovingly with each other and humbly with thee, that we have feared what is not terrible and wished for that which is not holy. In our weakness, be thou the quickening power of life. Arise within our hearts as healing, as strength and joy. Day by day, may we grow in faith, in charity, in the purity by which we may see thee, and in the larger life of love to which thou callest us. Amen.
We do not have a Share Our Plate partner for either July or August. We will resume sharing our plate in September with the new group of partners that we voted for at our annual meeting way back in May. During this month, our total offering is being used to benefit the programs and ministries of UUCB. You can make a donation now using the link posted in the chat, or by sending a check directly to UUCB, or by scanning the QR code on this next slide with your mobile phone. Please be as generous as you can. We will now receive the offering.
Dave.
May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community. Your generosity is always appreciated. Before I give closing words and extinguish our chalice, I want to plug this little book. This is called The Art of Confession by Paul Wilkes. The Art of Confession by Paul Wilkes, renewing yourself through the practice of honesty. I used this book for this sermon, and if you're interested in this topic, it's a great little book. And so now we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends. First, let me get